Well, here we are again. It is Bradford Ferguson of rebellionaire.com. How are you doing anyway?
Doing well. Doing
I
well.
was struck while I was thinking about today's conversation that sometime before you were born, we had a cultural revolution. You might have read it about it in books, or your parents might have talked about it. From 1966 to 1969, we had what most people consider to be the fastest cultural revolution, maybe of any country in history. Literally, when I graduated from high school in 66, you wouldn't have considered moving in with your girlfriend. That was like no chance.
Hmm.
There was theaters, they called them the Pussycat Theaters, and that's where you went if you wanted to see nude girls. And you didn't go, you kind of put on a hat and pulled it down over your face if you were going to go in there, you know. How
Hmm.
would I know about that? I was only a child. But anyway, and marijuana, I barely heard about marijuana, forget LSD and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, I was at UCLA in 1968, and everybody was living with their girlfriends. It was no big deal anymore. The Pussycat had come to the main screen, and everybody was going to see Behind the Green Door or whatever it was. I forget the names now, but there was all these
Hmm.
movies that came out, and it was the thing to you and your wife. You went to see these movies, which now are, of course, on our television, and uh, everybody in my entire, it wasn't a dorm, it was a co-op. Everybody was smoking this and taking that. I mean, it was just this massive cultural shift.
Hmm.
Seems to me that we might be right in the middle of one that might even be faster.
Hmm.
Gone
What would that
from
be, Randy?
that would be, going from well, okay, I think somebody put it really well today. I saw it in a post on X. They said this is the first time in their life that they felt it's okay to be Republican.
Hmm.
That the cultural the norm now has actually shifted to in like weeks, maybe a few months, from being DEI this and weird ideas with regard to trans children having their parts dealt with and whatnot. I mean, just very odd stuff, and free speech and whatnot. And all of a sudden, it's completely flipped.
Hmm.
And that would be Elon and Trump and Millet, maybe
Hmm.
as the three most important motivators of this shift. What do you think of that idea that we're maybe going through a significant cultural shift?
Yeah, I would say so. I don't think you can label, over half of the voting base as racist, just because they didn't vote the way you wanted to. I also think it's kind of silly that um, they said white men didn't vote for Democrats. Well, they were kind of like browbeating white men the whole time and not really offering them a whole lot, really focusing on abortion rights and, not protecting women's rights, dignity in sports. And um, it's, or like, protection from uh, illegal immigrants that have committed crimes against women. Um, so it it's it's interesting it got so far, um, and it's interesting to watch the rapidity of which is changing. CNN and NBC, I believe, just had large job cuts. The cuts at CNN were pretty substantial.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's you know, a more or less permanent thing, or if it was, them hiring a lot before the election to,
No, no,
get all
this
those ad dollars and then.
no, the other part of that information was that their valuation had gone in half.
Okay.
And they've been trying to put new CEO in, putting new
Mhm.
talent in, yeah, nothing is working.
I think they'll keep going until the virus dies.
Well, we're going to see. I mean, again, we've seen, of course, newspapers and and others. And again, the part of the cultural shift is, newspapers are, we're already on the way out, but the X.com has kind of taken over that role at this point in
Mhm.
terms of being the place where you go if you want the news.
Yeah.
So it just seems like maybe we're kind of having an interesting shift. Now, maybe amplifying that has been the last 3 days
Yeah.
since Trump has come in. I'm curious, what would your headline be? What would be the headline for you for the last 3 days since Trump has come in? Maybe the headline, the biggest thing he's done for you in your thinking are the general thing in terms of what's going on.
For me, it's good to see the energy. I thought it was really cool that Trump was signing the executive orders on stage. Um, I don't I don't think it was good to have a speech where he was gloating as much as he did right before that. I don't think that was good because I think a lot of people it could have turned off a lot of people, and then they don't watch and then they don't see him sign the executive orders. And
Right.
love the continuing energy when he went to the White House, and while he was signing the orders and asking, okay, which one's this, and explaining to the reporters what those were, and doing Q&A about other topics at the same time he's thinking about this executive order. It was very impressive to see that kind of energy and tenacity. Um, so I'm curious where it goes. There's going to be a lot of legal challenges to what they're trying to do, and um, I'm more libertarian, so I'm generally for a smaller government. So I hope they cut enough um, to really shrink government. I
Yeah.
think government slows down businesses. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think any economist would argue with the proposition that government usually is going to be less efficient at anything than 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 business is.
Hmm.
But some economists say that government needs to be doing this or that because either business is not interested in doing it, or business would do it in a way that would be inequitable or somehow hurt somebody. So I think this is, why we have the government involved in healthcare, et cetera, is for, reasons that are related to that. Okay, so then Trump comes out today. He demands that interest rates go down. We've got the chairman of the Fed, Mr. Powell, who says that he will not step down and he will not kowtow. He didn't ever say
Hmm.
that word, but he's not going to be cowed, I guess, by.
So tenured professor Jerome Powell is back. Yeah.
Did I say?
Sounds
Oh,
like,
goodness grace, goodness me. So,
yeah. You can't get rid of the tenured professor.
yeah, yeah. So, what do you think will happen in the coming together of the Titans with regard to that power struggle?
Well, I'm not sure about Powell's term or however long it lasts.
I think it's a year and a half more, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So he's got another year and a half. So I think generally he'll make it to the term. Trump might try to just make life hard for him. There's probably some ways to just annoy Powell in the role and try to get a leave earlier. Um, it seems like if inflation's cooling down, but just because inflation cooled down, that means like we're kind of at these higher prices and the prices haven't come down.
Right, right.
They're scared of deflation, so the prices won't come down. Um, so yeah, Trump is wanting things to goose the economy as president, so he's going to want lower rates.
Yeah. So let's go right in the heart of one of your specialty areas, and that is the energy part, because
Hmm.
that is the part that Trump seems to be most interested in terms of fighting inflation, which makes total sense. So there's another shift. I mean, we have just had a shift. Not only have we had a shift back to drill, baby, drill,
Hmm.
oil, oil, gas, get it as fast as you can, get it out of the ground, get it into production. We have a shift in, hey, Saudi Arabia, let's be friends. Get the price of oil down, please. Not even please. I'm not sure you use the word please. Uh,
Hmm.
Blaming them for the war in Ukraine because the high price of oil allows Russia to support the effort with their oil exports.
Hmm.
Then we have the shift with nuclear, which I don't know, 3 months ago, I didn't think there was a chance in the world that nuclear would be any real significant part of the equation until maybe 2030, 31, 32. And now nuclear's on the table, like get the regulatory people out of the way and let's get nuclear up as fast as we can. So
Hmm.
again, this is an area that you're totally involved in. How do you see the shift? Do you guys have a company that you're involved in that does nuclear? Any of the mini nuke companies? How about that gas company from a while back?
Hmm.
Um, I know that there was some issues there that those guys weren't doing well, but maybe they're doing better again now with this switch. In fact, I read today that gas might be the number one way that the current administration sees the energy needs being met. That would be my number three way after solar and nuclear, but maybe they're right. Maybe it'll be gas. Go anyway. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so yeah, natural gas, we were invested with Bloom Energy and we got unlucky. They lost their biggest customer right after that.
Yeah.
But they sprung back to success. The orders they have greatly increased. And what they make is natural gas fuel cells. So you extract the energy from the natural gas without combusting it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a science way. It's a real thing. It's not fake.
Yeah, yeah.
But a lot of these AI data centers, they bought natural gas turbines from GE. It's
Right,
in their outfit called Vernova.
right.
So it kind of surprised me because it's a dirtier way to get the power from natural gas. But that's what they're turning to. Um, I'm you know, anxiously excited about nuclear. I know it's like the contamination fears are much they're greatly overblown. I'm just skeptical on like how cost effective nuclear power plants are. Um, the reason why we closed 3 Mile Island or closed a reactor there was because it was too expensive. Um, it wasn't cost effective. The other thing is that none of these new nuclear companies has a working commercial scale, I don't know, prototype or reactor.
Are you talking about
Uh,
the mini nukes?
yeah, none of them. So
Right.
they're all under development, and some of the plans might be approved by the government, the designs. I guess the government has to approve the design, but none of them are done being built. Um, it's a diff You can actually create a nuclear reactor in your basement.
No kidding. Yeah.
I know it sounds crazy, but like there's YouTube videos of it. But having it be a sustained reaction and reliable and consistent, that's a hard thing to do.
Right.
And so I'm curious how that turns out. And I think there's going to be some companies where they make a reactor and it doesn't work. Or, a lot of these nuclear projects, I don't know why. We can't blame it on permitting. They take twice as long.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes it is permitting, yes, but yeah, I agree with you. It's not always permitting.
Yeah.
And then with Tesla, it doesn't really matter, right? Every one of these, whether it's nuclear, whether it's solar, whether it's gas, all of them benefit from the batteries. All of them benefit from the the power, uh, uh, consistent, what do you call it?
The
There's
mega packs.
the megapacks, from having the megapacks to come in and provide a balancing of the grid, whether it's a localized grid or whether it's a big grid. My understanding is they all benefit from having the power pack, the mega chargers.
Yeah,
Mega,
I'm not a expert on nuclear power plants, so I don't know how fast they can move them up and down as far as output. Um, but yeah, I'm guessing that they all benefit bare minimum just from having batteries steady out the grid for sure. And you could also have like in the summer, you can have the nuclear plants overproduce when it's when people aren't using as much cooling,
Mhm.
and then that goes to the mega pack. The mega pack stores up the power, and then they both can discharge. When people turn on their air conditioning and all their electronics when they get home in the summer. So they would all, I'd say they all benefit the batteries for sure. Yeah.
So the energy sector, again, there was a headline today or yesterday, obviously is going to be, I don't know, one of the um, one of the headline sectors for the next 4 years, with Trump putting so much effort into it, obviously with Tesla putting so much effort into it. So, uh, is there is there is there a way to play it other than just uh, like, for instance, General Electric has been out of favor for a long time, but you
Mhm.
mentioned they've got that division, uh,
Yeah.
which
So it's
is,
actually its own separate stock
oh, it's a
that
separate stock.
that
Okay.
GE Vernova. So there's now three different versions of GE stock,
Okay.
and the Vernova one is more their energy side, and also includes the wind turbine, the
And
turbines.
nuclear
Yeah.
and nuclear. The president of the or CEO, I forget, did a whole video on the fact that their expectations were by 2030 to have modular nukes ready to go.
Okay. That's a long time from now.
Yeah.
For the AI data center, like you don't
Yeah,
want to build it in 5 years.
right,
You
right,
want it, you want it tomorrow. You want it
right.
in 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know this for sure, but that video was about 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. And I
Mhm.
think that, he might have been giving his projections based on, the nuclear regulatory issues of that time. And
Mhm.
maybe if regulation gets out of the way, GE could move faster. Uh,
Yeah.
so we'll see. We'll see how that all works out. Um,
I'm a little skeptical on all this AI infrastructure spend.
okay.
Um, because this 500 billion announcement was already money that investors knew about.
Right.
So 100 of the 500 billion, and this is my theory. I don't know. It's like I could be wrong.
Right. Okay.
So Masa-san and Sam Altman, feel free to correct me, but Masa-san, he's a billionaire investor from Japan. He had already committed 100 billion when he was at Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
And Microsoft, they're already spending 80 billion per year over the next 5 years. That's what they're saying they're going to spend on AI infrastructure. So that's the 500 billion.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Oh, you
so
think that's the
it's
500 billion? Okay.
yeah, so it's not new
Oh,
money.
oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
The other thing is like I suspect, and this will sound like crazy talk, um, that the way AI is done will change over time.
Hmm.
Um, right now, the actual AI, it's real brute force. Like it's doing some really cool, seemingly magical things now, like having our cars drive.
Right.
Um, but what it does early on is you take all the world's knowledge and you're chopping it up into individual words,
Mhm.
and you're not keeping the context of those words when you initially do all the work. And there's this paper that Meta did, and they called it a large concept model.
Mm.
So you're keeping the sentences together,
Mm.
and then they still go about it a similar way. And they found just taking that one step, keeping the concepts together,
Yeah,
it saved them 10 times the compute.
right.
So like if you're going to spend a trillion on compute, maybe it ends up being 100 billion.
Yeah. Yeah, well, with the rate of improvement in all of this, it wouldn't surprise any of us if if there wasn't breakthroughs every year that change everything about what's happening. Although my my super expert on this, Brian Wang, says that basically it won't, there's no amount of compute that will solve that will that will be too much. So if we can get 10 times as much out of the same thing we got now, then we'll just build 10 times more anyway, because it's just almost unlimited as to how the compute will continue to help us. What are your clients telling you right now? What are they saying? What's the mood?
It seems pretty copacetic. No one called me and said that they didn't like what Elon's gesture, his awkward gesture, and that they um, thought Elon was a worse person than they thought, and that they wanted to sell Tesla stock. So we haven't gotten that call yet. All what can happen around elections is people who, didn't vote for the winning side, like they're tempted to sell all their stocks.
Mm,
They just get overly worked up about, their fear of what may happen.
sure.
And, then they want to sell and get back after the dust settles or whatever. And that's never a good investment plan to do it based off elections,
Sure.
not here in the US.
Yeah. Yeah. So, speaking of waiting for the dust to settle, it seems as if Tesla has the investors in Tesla have completely stopped caring about the day to day, and they're all just focused on next Wednesday. I mean, the stock is moving in this little range.
Mhm.
It's not just up and down a little bit, a little down, a little, and it's like all of a sudden all the volatility's gone out of it. What do you think? Are we looking at is that would that comport with maybe what you're hearing or seeing that just everybody wants to know what's going to happen next Wednesday?
Well, it's kind of like there's this magnet around 420 on the stock, and yeah, it's 411, but like it's it's like in this 420 range. So I almost feel like a 420 magnet would be a good piece of merch for Tesla stock nerds. Um, yeah, I would say people's minds still are a little more tickled with what's going on with FSD, like how good it is. And we still haven't had a 3 times bigger models or context length.
Yeah,
Also, yeah, Optimus at 600 a week at year end. That's what Tesla suppliers are being told.
right.
Multiple suppliers, more detail
Yeah,
in that note than would be put in a rumor.
yes, yes.
Probably not a rumor.
Probably not.
Yeah,
Yes.
so 600 per week, that would mean they might exit this year at a 30,000 Optimus
Run
per
rate.
year run rate.
Yeah,
And they might do it in the last week, but
yeah,
if they were to actually accomplish that, that would be a pretty huge shock.
yeah, no kidding. In fact, it was such a huge shock that I raised my PT. I had been at what I called 700 plus plus,
Hmm.
700 plus Robotaxi plus Optimus. I have now decided that both of those things are going to happen this year. So I've just eliminated the two pluses. I'm now at 1,200.
For year end?
Yes, for year end.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But Brian Wang is still higher than me. He's at 1,500. So I don't know. So yeah, I think if Optimus, I mean, let's face it, if Optimus became a visibly capable product,
Hmm.
and we know that the production is happening, and we know that what the price is, what you have to pay to get it, then that's what Wall Street needs. That's what they need to do to run their
Yeah.
spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And yeah, at that point, I don't see how you keep that bad boy down.
Yeah. That'd be pretty wild. Our valuation when Robotaxi starts, it basically adds $1,100 conservatively to Tesla's valuation in current value. Optimus, uh, we believe that adds $3,400 per share when they start production.
When they start. Yeah,
Yeah.
but not the next day.
Yeah, so in both of those cases, we don't expect Wall Street to suddenly agree with us.
Right.
So yeah, essentially we think it's the stock would be worth 1,500 per share once Robotaxi starts, and
Mhm.
um, confidence that they'll be able to spread it throughout the US.
Right.
And then an additional almost 3,500 once Optimus starts.
So a total of $5,000 a share, it would be the true value as
Mhm.
of those two events. And then if you do what Cern Basher likes to do, which is to bring that back to current value, he's only at 3,000 for the real current value. So
Mhm.
that would be a little lower than your number, but not that far off, probably.
Yeah, so yeah, we'd be close to like, 4,900 or something like that.
Okay, yeah, right now. Yeah, so and of course I couldn't agree more. The
And
question
this is
is
not financial advice. So
not
this is
financial
just
advice. Yeah.
how we value it. And we
Yeah.
have we have videos on the Rebellionaire YouTube channel on Tesla Bot on how we come up with 34 or 15, I think, a share. Also, um, on Robotaxi, we did in January 2023. We did a valuation on Tesla where we talk about Robotaxi being about 1,100 a share.
Right. Now, when you did the Optimus one, what is your model what are you modeling in terms of what Tesla is going to sell or rent the Optimi for?
So that they essentially that they would sell it for about 230,000 each.
Okay.
Um, and this is because we think the present value of the work of the Optimus as we define it
Right.
would be about $460,000.
Okay.
So that if once Tesla needs to sell them, I think they'll need to split
Right.
that $460,000 in value. I think they'll have to split that with the customer essentially when they set the price.
Right.
Now there'll be some customers that'd be willing to pay more,
Uh-huh.
um, and you won't have to split that profit initially because basically they're buying a reliable worker,
Sure, of course. Right.
and most companies would be willing to pay a reliable worker what they pay, but there's a limit to it.
Sure. Sure. Okay. And do you, at this point, none of us knows Elon has mentioned either, renting or selling.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense of how you think that story might turn out? Do you think they'll only rent them in the beginning, or do you think they'll offer both?
Well, if they sell it, they would just take a present value of the lease
I got it.
payments. So in our valuation, we basically said it didn't matter. So I forget what the lease price was that would equal that value, but it's pretty substantial. I'm guessing it'd be over 80,000 a year.
That's in this, we're all in the same ballpark. I think CERN's at
Yeah.
70 and I was at 65 or something like that. So yeah, although mine is a rent, not a lease. Mine is
Yeah.
Tesla still owns the
Yeah,
product.
I would agree. I would agree with well, yeah. Initially they would just rent them. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then they would add the ability for people to eventually own it. So they
Yes.
do the lease. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. All
That's
right.
smart. And then you'd sell it.
Yeah. All right. Very much on the same page. We speaking of prices, we had price increases in Canada today. I was I think everybody was shocked. It was like out of the blue.
Hmm.
What did I still have no idea why Canada got hit with these huge price increases. Do you?
It's a little loony. That's the name of the Canadian dollar. So that
They
it's
call
called
it
loon.
loony.
It's the loonies. Um, yeah, so the Canadian dollar has declined in value. But the it hasn't been terrible. I just looked at it on Google. I don't think it's been that bad. It doesn't look like it's more than like 10% or so
Well,
that the
but
decline is.
you're only talking recently, because I can remember when the Canadian dollar was valued higher
Yeah.
than the
I'm talking
US.
about like a year ago. So
Okay,
like
yeah, okay,
there's
yeah,
been this currency change where Trump spoke and he talked about tariffs and
right,
that
right.
devalued the Canadian dollar, but it wasn't as bad as people say.
Okay,
Um, and there's also potentially a loss of some kind of rebate.
yes, yeah.
Tesla increased their price by 1,000 on one of the products and just lost the EV uh,
Oh,
rebate. So it's a mystery to me why the price is going up unless they're trying to give people a little FOMO around the new Model Y that's maybe coming out sometime soon in the US.
I thought maybe it was part of the greater plan to get Canada to, become part of the United States. I mean,
Oh,
like,
yeah, maybe. So yeah, if you join the US, then we'll lower your price back.
that's so,
That's some
so
hardball right there.
yeah, yeah. I guess we'll have to keep our eye on that and see if there's anything new out of that. Okay, so what about next Wednesday for you guys? Do you have an EPS number and a margin number, and what are you hoping for in guidance? And I'll let you tell your story.
So Matt will do his EPS. He hasn't done it yet.
Oh my,
We'll release that publicly though when it comes.
it would be too late for my show.
I think it'd be great if we got guidance on 4680,
Yeah,
um, guidance on uh when that affordable model is coming out, maybe an announcement of the launch event. That would be pretty exciting. Yeah, in the October earnings call, they said the more affordable model would be released in the US, I believe, in the first half of 2025.
right, right,
So we're now in the first half of 2025, and that ends at the end of June.
right.
Um, so you also saw a cyber in Texas that had a wheel on it.
Maybe.
So, is that going to be the shape of the more affordable model? Will it be a two-seater? That'd be pretty interesting. If you could buy essentially what looks like the cyber but it have a steering wheel and pedals.
Yeah, or my speculation, complete speculation, because
And Elon told us that We Robot, he said, and you can buy one, for the cyber
yes, yes, yes. He didn't say whether it would be the robot version.
Uh-huh.
Well, and it could be that it's not that hard to just make it a little longer and make it into a four-seater. And as long as
Mhm.
you're going to make it, but keep the look, because the look apparently everybody it's a pretty. Let's say that people were way more excited about that look than they are about the Juniper. Not to say that
Yeah.
I think people have gotten used to the Juniper, and I think they're all happy with the Juniper. I did a poll on it, and everybody's fine with the Juniper. I mean, it was really like 90% said that they were perfectly happy with the look.
I
So,
gotta ask you a poll question.
oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
What percent do you think Tesla stock would be up for the week if there was, let's just say it's after earnings and we're in April and
Yeah.
there's no other news and they say uh, Ford is licensing full self-driving. How much do you think the stock would be up?
So I saw your poll,
Uh-huh.
and I sat there and I pondered, and
Hmm.
I decided the 10 to 20, you offered 10%, you offered 10 to 20, and I think 20 to
Hmm.
30. Anyway, I decided the 10 to 20 was
Okay.
the most likely because it's not going to go up by 100 billion or something. I mean, it's
Well, 10% would be
it
100
would be 100
billion at
billion.
this
Yeah, I
point.
know. Yeah, I know. So, all right, it's not going to go up a quarter of a trillion. I don't know. It just seemed like that would maybe be about, going up about 40 bucks, 50 bucks, and that kind of news is probably about right. Yeah. What did you think?
Yeah, I'm curious what people think because I think it would be over 30%.
Over
But
30% on a
but
licensing deal.
but yeah, because like Tesla doesn't even have to make the cars. I mean, they can help with the engineering, but
Yeah, yeah. They'd have
they
to.
wouldn't be involved in the manufacturing. And it'd just be like almost free money. But I feel like that Tesla is actually like the biggest customer of full self-driving.
Yeah,
They're gonna flip a switch and have 1.6 million cars on AI 4 or hardware 4 that definitely will be capable.
yeah.
Um, and you got another million on hardware 3.
And more being
Uh,
built every day.
yeah, so I almost feel like Tesla's the biggest customer. I think just like the psychology, like when we had all the NACS and that
Yep,
announcements,
yep,
when the all the other car makers said, "Hey, we're gonna offer an adapter and enable you to get on and charge with Tesla on our app and stuff." That was a big deal for, I think, is a huge feather in Tesla's cap.
yeah. No, psychologically, I think
Mhm.
that, but I think that might be captured in the 10 to 20%. And by the way, last time I checked, the 10 to 20% was winning.
Okay, I think it makes, I think that's what it probably should be up because I think it's a bigger deal just for Tesla to get it working for themselves. Um, I think that's a much bigger deal.
And the other advantage of it would be that if Ford does it, or if, I don't care who it is, BYD or Hyundai or whatever, if any of these guys do it, it pretty much says other folks might be following. So the Ford the financial benefit to Tesla on the Ford part might not be worth 30%, but if 15 companies get in line and start licensing it, well, now you could be talking about a huge amount of benefit to Tesla on the financial side. So, anyway, yeah, that was a good poll. I liked your poll. That was a good one. Guidance. So the guidance you're looking for would be on, by the way, I agree with you 100% on batteries. I
I'd love
personally,
to hear like a production start in Optimus. Like to hear a little more detail about them starting robotaxi service, um, whether it's in Texas or California. That would be great to hear as well. I'm not expecting that, but I think those would be, bullish to add more detail to.
yeah,
Also, where they're at, how many megapacks are coming out of Shanghai. We need a Shanghai megapack counter to
yeah.
scope it out for a week, get a couple buddies and count them from down the road. You can spot mega packs pretty easily. They're big.
I could imagine, I think I put this up already on X or in one of my shows. I could imagine a surprise announcement of another Megapack factory.
Ooh.
That wouldn't be surprising. With all the energy requirements that are out there, now that they've got the Shanghai one built and starting to produce, I think they would know enough to know if they could cookie cutter it. So they could give us an announcement. I think that could be the big announcement of the earnings call.
I'm going to ask a loaded question.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you think Europe will allow Tesla to build a mega pack factory in Europe?
Poland.
There you go.
I'm serious. Poland is the hot tip right now. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I didn't have any idea. All of a sudden, Poland is like the freest country in Europe, and they're growing like a crazy. And
Yeah.
so maybe it'll be Poland. The other one that's kind of surprising right now is Portugal, which when I drove all the way from Madrid to Bilbao to Lisboa years ago, and it was kind of like driving. It's like starting in Northern California, going to Southern California, then going to Mexico. When you got to the south end of Spain, you were in
Mhm.
Mexico, and then the further you went, you just got deeper and deeper into a third world nation. But Portugal apparently is also becoming a hot deal. Uh,
Mhm.
and it may be that you need to get away, especially for something that's much easier to build. You may want to be getting away from the industrial countries that are so socialist.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that,
the expat vacationer crowd is pretty big in Portugal,
yes,
also on the west coast of Spain as
right,
well.
right. Yes, definitely a happening thing. Okay. Let's see. Gosh, I ran out of page.
What else bullish things could happen on the call?
Oh, yeah. What else bullish could
I
happen?
think Optimus and autonomy are way up there. The lower cost car, if they announce some kind of event. I don't think they'd announce it at the earnings call, the date of the event,
Right.
but they might. It's possible they could announce it in a couple weeks, something like that.
I suppose what I'm hearing that people think about the call on the more affordable car would be
Mhm.
just a confirmation. They would be happy with a confirmation. If
That
all
it
if
would
all
be happening.
we are on schedule to do the
Mhm.
affordable car in the first half, as we've indicated earlier, we will be telling you more later, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be. I agree with that. Yeah.
I don't think the street would care about this, but I think that the nerds would. You mentioned batteries. I'd like to hear, I wish he would spend like at the call. I would, I would be thrilled if he'd take 5 minutes of the call to give a strategic look at their own production of batteries.
Hmm.
They doing in Reno? What are they going to do in Berlin? What are they going to do in Shanghai? What are they doing in Austin? What are the updates on the CATL? What are the updates on the new patent? Just
Yeah,
kind of,
the internal LFP
yeah,
cathode making, the
exactly.
lithium refining in Corpus
Yes.
Christi. There's so much going on.
I know, just kind of a top-down strategic understanding of where
Yeah.
we're going,
I
over.
think investors need to know that.
I
So
do.
if there's a question on say right now that's about, everything that's going on with batteries and lithium and refining, upvote that,
Inter
please.
Interestingly, the number one, when I looked the other day on Say, the number one at the top was 4680. Now, that could be changed because it was like the
Mhm.
first day. And so it was like, 54 votes or something, but it was the number one was the 4680. So I think there's a lot of interest in the batteries, and you know, ultimately every single product basically requires batteries.
That's right.
So now the other thing would be the semi. I've I've had this understanding until again Brian Wang. Hate to keep bringing him up, but he has these little niches that he really goes deep on. I had the idea, no, it was Brian White rather in this case, um, that the ramp on the semi was really going to be at the end of the year into the next year. But that building is done. The
Yeah.
floors are being poured or almost poured. I mean, according to our meeting on my interview with him on Monday or Tuesday, it looks the what do you call it? The stamping center, which is the last thing to do, looks like it'll be done within a month, maybe 6 weeks, or maybe it take a little longer to put the walls around it. But I mean, they could be installing equipment, doing test runs, blah 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 blah
Mhm.
of the equipment. I mean, we could be looking at April 1st, May 1st that they would be starting to ramp. That would be interesting news. That would be again the street we go, but building 50,000 semi trucks is the same as building 300,000 of the new affordable car.
Mhm.
So,
And and that might get you the growth that Elon's talking about on the year, the 25% growth.
right, right.
Mhm.
That would just be vehicle count. That wouldn't, that would be a lot more increase in profit.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah, I realized that my page was out of order. And so when I got down here, there was nothing left. So did we cover everything that's on your hot list, or did we leave anything out that's been that you've been thinking about with regard to the stock or the company or the economy in general?
Yeah, just I'm curious how things turn out legally with a lot of the proposed changes that Trump made, and excited to see how they turn out, and really excited to see if we can get some positive results, kind of like Argentina has with
Yeah.
cutting waste and all that, getting rid of agencies, lowering the number of federal workers. I think those things will help. Matt and we did a video about we're doing a live video every Tuesday at
Okay.
4 p.m.
Okay.
Eastern,
Mhm.
1 p.m. Pacific.
Okay.
And mainly the first half or 45 minutes are Tesla, and then we'll talk about some other things.
Mhm. Mhm.
So check that out Tuesdays at 4, and we do Q&A, so you could put in your questions, and we may get to it at the end, depending on your question. Um, and we did update people on Lemonade. Um,
Okay. Uh-huh.
so we did state publicly that we trend Lemonade stock at $50 a share,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that we added back around 32, 33 a share. So
And we
there's
knew we knew we knew that broadly last week, but now the specifics, that's a pretty good sell and buy. That's a con-
yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah, and we before all this we owned 1% of the company. It got our ownership got below a 0.5%, and that'll come out in our 13F. And but right now it's above 1%, but the quarter's not over. So we'll see how things go from here. But our valuation of it's above $100 a share. And we
Mhm.
also did a lemonade valuation video.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, yeah. So it's definitely one that I know you followed very, very closely. It was interesting. Last little piece with regard to the California fires and the
Mhm.
insurance aspects of that. I don't know if you've seen it yet. I highly recommend everybody go look at Peter Diamandis, the X Prize guy,
Mhm.
number one futurist. Brian Wang's teacher, his professor.
Mhm.
you know, Peter has got an X Prize for wildfire fighting.
Mhm.
And one of the most interesting things that they've come up with so far for fighting wildfires, and basically the X Prize is you have to be able to get the you have to be able to put out the fire 10 minutes from when it's discovered,
Mm.
and the discovery has to be within minutes of it starting. So they've got,
Mhm.
we know that, there's already some satellite telemetry, but it's getting better and better that could see a fire like instantaneously, but you would have to have enough of the satellites and have them positioned, et cetera, to make sure that you're going to catch any fire within the first couple of minutes of when it starts. And here's how they're going to put it out. I mean, this is at least one of the ways.
Sprinklers on the roof.
Sprinklers on the roof is how you deal with it if it gets out of control. No,
Oh, okay.
to put it
Before it
out,
gets out of control.
put it
Okay.
out, to put it out within 10 minutes. I'm sorry, a jet propelled drone, pre-positioned jet propelled drones, pre-positioned throughout the entire area where the wildfires are likely. And these jet propelled drones would then be able to get to the fire. I mean, we're not talking drones. We're not talking about little, handheld drones.
Yeah,
We're
it'd
talking
be a jet like the Andrew will, jet missiles. Yeah.
Right, right. And get there within 10 minutes and douse it within 10 minutes and you don't have to think about the fire anymore. I thought that was fascinating.
You- So if the initial minutes matter, you are talking about needing a rocket engine. You need a jet.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing
So
is
your idea of drones is correct.
not only that, in some of their other ideation, they also talked about massive drone penetration if the fire is in fact out of control. But the
Mhm.
problem is in California is that during that beginning of the fire, even if those Santa Anas are blowing, you're talking about 30 to 40 mile an hour winds. Okay, you can be flying helicopters in 30 to 40. Above that, not so good. You can be flying some of these small aircraft 30 to
Mhm.
40 miles an hour. Above that, not so good. The fire, if it gets going, creates its own weather. That's when you start getting the 100 mile an hour winds. And literally in
Oh,
and literally in Tahoe, they've had 200 mile an hour winds that have been recorded within these firestorms. So it
we
isn't,
briefly saw a fire tornado on CNN's coverage
yes,
in the
yes,
Palisades.
yes, exactly, exactly. Well, see,
It was crazy.
okay, I live there, okay? I live in Riverside now, and I used to live 15 blocks from the Palisades. Okay. I used to live on north of Wilshire in Santa Monica, which is about not even 15 blocks, more like 10 blocks to the Palisades. So I know that neighborhood extremely well. My ex-wife was actually evacuated. She lives in the Palisades. So I know this whole situation, been dealing with it my entire adult life here in California. And you got to get that fire out quickly before
Mhm.
the fire creates the weather.
Okay.
So maybe Lemonade needs that information. I don't know. That might help them with their renter's insurance in California.
Well,
Never go
so
back.
their exposure to California is really
Yeah.
low, and there's old legacy experts that think it's high, and
Okay. Yeah.
they haven't followed what management's been saying for the last couple of years. They dropped a lot of coverages.
Yeah. All
So
right.
we think that exposure to the California fire is going to be low,
Well,
very low.
potentially, if we can get this new firefighting idea going, they could come back to California. Everybody could. Yeah.
Because having cities on deserts is a great idea.
Well, no, I'm just saying if you could put the fire out, you no longer have the wildfires burning down, 7 million, $10 million mansions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I guess we've covered it. I'll do the numbers here in a second.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll say I was chuckling there, but it's really horrible the amount of destruction. And I can't even imagine living there while you're rebuilding and reminded of all the destruction. Um,
yeah, and it's hard. I was more heartbroken by Lahaina because that's just kind of I've been to Maui about, I don't know. My parents
mhm.
lived in Maui. My sister lived in Maui for like 20 years. So I've been there a lot, and Lahaina is just, it's kind of a slightly more precious than the Palisades.
Mhm.
The Palisades are amazing, but Lahaina is a little more precious. But they've got the same issues in the Palisades now with how to rebuild it, what to do in terms of the planning, et cetera. And it's not good. Yeah.
They need to follow yours and Brian's advice.
There you go. I mean, absolutely. All
All
right,
right, well, let's get to the numbers.
let's do that. All right, so I've run myself out of time here today, so let's go quickly. Dow up 408 today, NASDAQ up 44, S&P up 32, Tesla down $2.73 at the end. It had been down more, it had been up more, but quite frankly, it's kind of going sideways, which is what we said earlier. Magnificent Seven was split, Google and Apple down, the rest up, but nobody by very much, except for Meta up 12 bucks, about 2%. Kathy Woods were all up except for PayPal, which is down a little bit. 12 cents, so not really very much. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at where we are now as opposed to where we were. Let's go ahead. What have I got here? So sorry. Okay, bonds. Oh, good. We're basically unchanged right now at 4.638 on the 10-year, and the 2-year is down a little bit, 0.9%, and the 1 month is also down 0.9%. So cool. That's what we want to see. More of that. If the bond industry, the folks that buy bonds are paying any attention at all, it would seem to me that Trump has laid out the game. He's laid out the fact that he's serious. He's laid out the fact he's going to keep his promises. It would seem to me, I'm thinking there's going to be a bond rally, not investment advice, but that's what I think is going to happen. Okay, let's look at oil, which has come down again. Trump bully pulpit today telling Saudi Arabia, drop the price of oil, telling the world that they're going to drill, baby, drill. We are going to get the price of oil down. It is $74 now. A week ago, we were at 80 and a half. So we've come down quite a ways. I think we're going to 59, 60, somewhere in that range, but it'll be slow. Or yeah, it'll be, a dollar here, a dollar there until we get there. But I think that's where we end up. And that's on Texas Intermediate. Natural gas down a tad, back under $4, $3.91. Gold up a tad, sitting right around its all-time high. Silver, $30 and change, almost 31. And copper, where exactly where it's been, $4.33. Call it for anyway, very, very close, very flat there. The dollar doing fine. Sorry, is it impossible to tell you about the dollar? Do you guys even care about what the dollar has done? Maybe I'll just take the dollar out of it. Bitcoin down 777 for all day. That's the total for the day, sitting at 103,573. And the pre-market right now for the stock futures is the Dow down 28 or 0.06, S&P $5, 5.75 down. That is 0.09. Right now, just changed to 0.10. And NASDAQ 33 down or 0.15. So again, the NASDAQ kind of down a little more than the rest, but quite frankly, not very much action. It seems as if my feeling is that except for the Dow today, which really had a great day, that might be some kind of a beginnings of a little bit of transfer from the NASDAQ to the Dow, but it needs to happen for more than one day. But the Dow was at an all-time high today. So we'll see if that continues. But otherwise, it seems like it's a little flat right now. Like we got to take a breath after all the stuff that's happened this week. We're not sure exactly what it all means yet. And so let's take a breath. But the VIX is at 14 and a half. So there's not any anxiety about what's going to happen, but there might be confusion about how this will all end up at the end of the day when all this stuff is put in place. All right. I think that's all I've got. Oh, I didn't talk about what Tesla's doing in the after, and this will be a surprise to me. I have no idea. It's down 47 cents. So again, 411.91, right between 410 and 414. I wouldn't be at all shocked if it stays in a very tight range Friday through Wednesday, and then after we get the news, we might still be at 410. That's my number for the end of the month. So that's it. That's all I got for you right now. This one ran a little long. It has been great talking to you.